This is Food for Thought with Deborah Walker. This week on Food for Thought, I welcome back health coach Lawrence Mitchell, who some of you will remember was with me earlier this year talking about his book highlighting the issues around sugar. Now, in this interview, he's wearing his other hat as the RBI Marketing Director, where he heads up the central marketing specialist teams and the brand marketing teams, providing a single point of contact for their brands. He's currently involved with the rollout of a business-wide wellbeing campaign, and he's come back on to talk to us about wellbeing in the workplace and his interest in this. Hi Lawrence, how are you today?
Hi Debbie, very well, thank you, really well. Please it's Friday. But
Now, what's prompted your interest in promoting wellbeing at RBI?
I suppose when you look back, I've always had two different roles. I've had my job, and I've seen it very much as my job, and I've had a big job in marketing within a very busy and very changeable industry. And then separately, I've been on my own personal well-being journey, which started a long time ago, and I've kept that very much as something I've been interested in. And then probably 3 years ago, I became more interested in trying to package my knowledge and learn better coaching skills so that I could help other people, but very much thinking about helping individuals as opposed to whole communities. And I suppose at the end of last year, I came to the realization that I was in an influential position within my workplace. It's a large company. There are 2,000 employees, and what I wanted to do is try and use my knowledge in some way to try and influence and improve the well-being of the workplace, and very much the people I work with is my community. I spend more time with them than the people in my neighbourhood. So I started in a very small way, thinking how can I actually sort of join the dots and try and get well-being on the company agenda.
So what exactly is RBI doing to promote wellbeing? What does its staff, what does wellbeing mean for RBI in particular?
Okay, so I guess maybe if I go right back to the beginning of the year to answer that question, just to explain what happened and how I got started, because it started in a very casual way, because I didn't know the answer to that question myself. And I spoke to my boss and said, look, I'm really interested in this area, and I'm a health and wellbeing coach, and is it okay if I just find out what we currently do and whether we could do things better? And he was very supportive. So I started by just talking to our occupational health advisor. We have one person who's an occupational health advisor, and that was in January, and it was very much like two minds meeting. So she's very, she's a trained nurse, but she spends most of her time dealing with sick people. Once they become a problem, and we went through what we currently do as a company, and what I realized is that we did so much more than I actually realized. The problem was that none of it was actually joined up, so awareness engagement was much lower. But that's when it started. What does it mean for us? And we started talking to people, and the next step I did was pull together some like-minded people as a kind of working party. And it wasn't just people like myself who was very health engaged, but it was also people who potentially could influence and help. So the guy who runs the facilities department, for example, and the guy who runs the canteen, and the lady who heads up corporate communication. So we sort of brought these people together and just talked, what do we currently do? What could we do? And everyone had a very different perspective. And I guess one thing at that point that I realized is that people tended to think, or employees, the people I work with, tended to think of well-being as fitness. So running, cycling, that's what well-being meant then. We've now been on a journey where well-being now to the company, and I self-appointed myself as well-being champion to drive this agenda forward. And now the well-being agenda is very much more holistic and much more integrated in the sense that healthy eating and fitness and healthy sleep and the things that you'd expect are very much part of that agenda. But it also includes the environment, the office environment. It also includes enjoying time with colleagues. So it's a much more integrative approach than just one thing to really get to really have healthy employees, but employees who are people who are happy coming to work and therefore are more productive and high performing.
It's interesting that you've realised that wellbeing is actually a really wide remit, isn't it?
It's huge, and I think it creeps into so many different areas. And in some ways, at the start, I felt like it was a bit odd because I was working on a wellbeing agenda, which traditionally people would think should be driven through HR. Certainly, occupational health reports into HR, but because I'm a person with the interest, it didn't really matter. And that's why I think now, if somebody's got that passion, it doesn't take a huge amount of effort to really understand what you're currently doing, what the vision could be, and I can talk about how I formulated that. But then also identifying and connecting with other people who want to help, and that becomes the secret formula in many ways.
So you've just touched on how you formulate it. Just expand on that for us.
So I guess looking back now and bearing in mind now we're sort of 10 months down the line, so I in my mind it almost fits into three core areas now, and even though it started in a very casual way, and I really think that's the right thing to do rather than having this sort of grand vision that feels too difficult to get to. So like where we are now, we've made significant progress, but I never really knew we would get to this point at the start of the year. It just kind of it's grown organically. But there are three core steps. I would say anybody who's works for a company, or it doesn't have to be a big company, it could be a small company. But if you feel passionate about well-being, then the steps I would suggest are: number one, I call it discovery. So it's really understanding what you currently do and can you do more of it. What employees, what level of awareness there is, and what other things people would like to see happen. And we did a simple survey in over the summer, which was very useful because that, the first thing to say is we got the best response. Then a much better response than I actually expected, because we have 2,000 employees in the company, and over 1,000 people responded, and that was just after 2 emails. So I didn't do a massive sort of push communication campaign at all, but that in itself indicated that employees are very engaged and really interested. And then the results of that showed us that the types of things that people wanted, and some of those things were things we were thinking about, but some of the things were new, and it very much validated and gave us a lot of confidence to move forward. So that's in discovery. Another key thing was looking at success. So for example, I did some research, looked at where companies are very proactive in this area, and then interviewed their wellbeing champions or people in those companies just to really understand what they do. So I spoke to the wellbeing champion at Google, for example, because you know that Google's going to be pretty proactive in this area, and that gave me some really good insights. I spoke to someone at Marks and Spencer's and Legal in General and various other companies just to look for the patterns. What's important to make these things happen, because in many ways the tactics are useful, and you can dream up lots of different ideas, but the real difference between success and failure is that ongoing engagement. And that ongoing engagement can come from senior managers who are modeling the behavior. Obviously that helps if they're participating. In fact, that's a common across all the success examples I actually looked at, as well as regularly speaking and polling or surveying the employees to understand what they want and trying to respond to their needs. So that was all in discovery, as well as understanding the metrics. What's really important to us as a company, and it's going to vary company to company. But if you look at the research, then stress is always going to be up there. For us, it's the number one issue, and it's an umbrella for so many different things. But burnout, stress-related conditions, it's a major issue for companies, and is costing companies a huge amount of money, because there's a lot of days are lost to stress. So that's a big issue. And then number two, which is common to other companies, is musculoskeletal type conditions. And then you've got obesity-related conditions as number three. So those are the top three issues that society is facing, but very much seen in workplaces, particularly larger companies.
So what are the sorts of initiatives that have you put in place then, and do you plan on putting in place?
Sure. So what we've put in place is, number one, I discovered we were doing a lot of things, as I say, but they weren't joined up. So the first step was trying to create an umbrella program to bring all these things together. So we've launched something called the Living Well program. And to position it within the company, we've shot a video. So 3-minute video just explaining why we're doing this, why we're being proactive, and trying to speak to the right people in the company. So that's been key. And it's been a fine balance between providing a framework to enable people to flourish and participate, and not coming across as kind of some kind of nanny company who's telling people to, because there's always going to be a proportion of any workplace that is going to be cynical. And we found that in the survey, that 30% of the company said we don't want to participate no matter what you do. But they're not the people we're talking to. The people we're talking to are the middle group, what I call the worried well. So people who want to be well but are not quite sure what to do, and they may go on yo-yo diets, or they may be trying different things, but they haven't got the time to research these areas thoroughly, so they need some guidance. So that's the key audience. So I've done quite a few things around the engagement. Other things we've done have been we're organising a big Wellbeing fair, which is probably bringing all of these things together, and that's going to have a number of different zones relating to different aspects of well-being. So, for example, I mentioned stress is an issue, so that will have a number of different initiatives to support stress. We've got a leading stress resilience expert speaking to actually help people. We've got an introduction to mindfulness. We've got a whole range of different gadgets to engage people, to help them understand what their stresses are and to take action to reduce that. Whole piece around healthy eating and food, as you'd expect. Not being, my lifestyle might be considered more extreme by some people. So it isn't about dictating or pushing any particular diet or anything like that. It's about building awareness of eating good quality whole foods, and that's a real focus. And also having some food demonstrations and things like that. Then there's a zone around physical well-being. So physical well-being will be a range of things, including a run and a walk, Zumba classes. That seems to be really popular. It's a whole range of different things for people to try. I say it's something for everyone, rather than speaking to just the people who are interested in healthy eating. And the survey has given us those ideas, and we're very much responding to those things. And know your numbers was a big area which I'm personally very interested in terms of data driven health. And 75% of the company are also interested in that. So we'll have a range of tests and gadgets where people can actually get some basic cholesterol tests and blood glucose tests, but also a showcase of some of the new technologies around where people can wear gadgets for a period of time and then get that insight in terms of data, and then look at their lifestyle and see what changes that they could make.
It all sounds very, very exciting. Now, I know, you talked about those people who were not engaged, but the key is to get the staff engaged across the board as much as you can, isn't it? So that you can affect cultural change. Now, you more than anybody, being a marketing director, will know how to market to people, but what would you say the key things are to engage the staff in something like this on such a large scale?
Okay, I think that's an excellent question, because I think you can easily make the mistake of trying to engage everybody and you end up not engaging anyone. So I think the first step is segmenting the audience. So the way we've segmented the audience is by looking at it in the way I described. So we have 15% who are health engaged, 30% who are the worried well, and they're the people who I explained before are not ill but are worried that they will be. So they do engage in activities. But then there's another group, which is also about 30%, which are the people who are sitting on the fence. And they're the people who are not doing anything, but they feel they should at some point, and maybe something will happen that will encourage them to take that step. So it could be a wake-up call, it could be a friend gets ill or something like that, and then those people move and start engaging. And then there's the 30% who don't engage at all. So I think number one is understand the audience and don't treat them all in the same way. So it'll be different messages, but then start to communicate to the different groups. So the 15% who are health engaged, pull them together and create a network or a tribe of wellbeing champions, and that's what I've done. I think that's been absolutely critical and has led to huge amounts of initiatives and ideas and resources that have contributed to our wellbeing fair and the ongoing program. So I asked on the survey, if anybody's interested in being a wellbeing champion, then to let me know. And we got 130, which I was really delighted with. And that's spread across every department, every country. I should say that our 2,000 employees, only about 2/3 of those are based in the UK. The other third are based in the US, Asia Pacific, and across different countries in Europe. So we have quite a fragmented working community, and it can be challenging to try and bring the whole thing together. But those wellbeing champions have been incredibly valuable resource, and what I've done is hooked them together using Yammer. We have an internal social media network. It's a bit like Twitter, but from within a company. So bring them together, hook them together, and then feed them content and keep them tooled and train them so that they can spread the message. That's been really important to engage their colleagues and to create some excitement, enthusiasm. And I've been using that network to ask for speakers, to ask for any practitioners that people know. And what you realise that within your employees, even though they're doing a job, many of them have other different skills. And within our employee community, we have yoga teachers, we have Reiki teachers, we have fitness trainers, lots of skills just within our group. And then many people also have friends who are also in the wellbeing industry. And we've tried to connect as many of those people as we can and bring them into our wellbeing marketplace that will be running. The other key audience are the senior managers. So very critical. I'm fortunate because I'm part of the leadership team, and I have used the business argument to position this as part of our overall agenda. So I I started very quietly, so up until June, I didn't make a big deal about it at all. And so I did a lot of groundwork and got things going. And then in June, we had a 2-day leadership meeting, and I had the opportunity to talk about what I was doing. And I positioned it alongside our talent agenda, because we'd spent a lot of time talking about, the war on talent and how to get skills and retention and all the things that you would expect a company to talk about. So it was perfect for me to then come along and say, what about well-being? We're not talking about well-being, and to provide some data which clearly indicated that companies who are proactive in well-being are economically more successful than those who aren't. And there's more and more data coming out to actually show this. And that got the topic on the agenda. It got us debating it, because in the same way as I described the profile of the employees, the leadership team also fits into those categories. So not everyone thinking about this, but it got people thinking. I positioned it very much from the business's point of view, that you can't have a healthy company with sick employees. And we talk a lot about how can we be a higher performing company. We're under a lot of pressure as a company to grow as a company, to grow our revenues, and growing revenues is dependent on the performance of the company, and the performance of the company is dependent on the performance of the individuals. And if they're all feeling great, energetic, up for it, then we're going to be a lot more successful than if everyone's feeling, burnt out, fed up, would rather be somewhere else, is just kind of, kicking the tires. So this is the argument. That's why it is much bigger than just diet and exercise and some of the things that traditionally are about wellness. Well-being is a much broader topic that actually brings together social, environmental, community, financial well-being, all the things that do cover the whole person.
And I think it's really interesting that you've touched on the business argument, because it is absolutely imperative, particularly to senior leadership teams, that actually it's taken into account. These initiatives have to impact on the key performance indicators. Which ones in particular have you been focused on impacting on with this wellbeing agenda, just out of curiosity?
And it's an interesting point, and I knew as a marketer and somebody who's focused on return on investment, I did the figures that I looked at initially were the absenteeism figures, absenteeism through sickness, and ours are self-completed, so you always have to take these things with a pinch of salt. But I looked at the trends, and I just highlighted the business benefit of just reducing those by 1%, and that got people listening. I tried to also focus on this other concept called presenteeism. I don't know if you've come across that, but that means people who are at work, but 50% of them are not at work. So for whatever reason, they're not putting their full self into the job, so they're not as productive as they can. So I used some of those things, but I very much appealed to people's emotions, because logically everyone knows this is true. And I used concepts like, if we were running a football team and half our players were off sick, we're not going to win the game. So this is the kind of story I said. And everyone knows that, and they couldn't argue with it. And by using the examples of other leading companies, that also appealed to their sense of what more can we actually do. So I used a combination of different arguments, but I think when it comes down to it, you do want to see some kind of improvement in absenteeism and presenteeism, but also in business performance. And really, the well-being of a company is not down to one thing; it's down to many things. But the people, and I think this is something I believe very passionately, the people are the most important asset, because whatever you're delivering, whether you're focused on products or selling products or marketing products or creating customer experiences or customer service, somewhere in the process is going to be a person. So if we look after our people and they feel valued by the company, and they feel that the company really cares, then they're going to be a lot more motivated and enjoy their jobs, and they'll stick with you when things get tough. And our business over the last 6 years has gone through some enormous changes. We've gone through a lot of restructuring, a lot of divestments and acquisitions, and the company's doing very well now. But from a well-being point of view, it's put people under a lot of pressure. People have felt uncertain, and all of those things, which tend not to be very good from a personal well-being perspective.
So, what are the long-term cultural changes you're looking to create with what you've done?
Long-term cultural changes. I think a culture where people are very much respectful of each other, willing to support each other, enjoy their jobs, and therefore can see the return of their efforts, and a culture which is very community based. I think that's a key thing for me. That ultimately we are a community, and we need each other to do our jobs well, and we need each other for the overall performance of the company to do well. And where that works well, and we have a very cohesive team, then that part of the business performs much better than other areas.
So, what are you planning on doing next after this?
Okay, so really, this year has been about internally bringing things together, looking at resources, being resourceful, understanding the metrics, as you say, getting our engagement piece right, and then creating a vision and creating a strategy that aligns with our overall people strategy. So we've done a number of tactical things, and I think it's a combination between doing some things centrally, like creating, we've got an idea to do something called Fit to Win, so which we're going to kickstart activity. So a number of different initiatives that are organised centrally, but also empowering employees to do things locally and giving them the tools to do that. So, for example, organising a cycle race and pulling a team together, running yoga classes if you've got the skills to do that, or you know someone who can. So having that holistic view, but getting the right combination. And the plan for next year is to organise initiatives, bigger initiatives that fit in with the seasons of the year. So, for example, when you come back from January, it's all about knowing your numbers and understanding where you are. Come spring, it's about spring into fitness, so hence initiatives like Fit to Win fit into there, and we're talking to a number of different entrepreneurial technology companies to enable programs that like that to happen, because you need some kind of tool or technology to make that happen. In the summer, it's all about safe sun and hydration, which I know is a topic close to your heart. And then into the winter, it's about winter well-being and protecting yourself. So, and lots of education running all the way through. So bringing in external experts to talk on topics like sleep, healthy sleep, which is a problem, like on sugar, which is a topic that is close to my own heart, like on hydration, like all different topics, but to provide guidance and dispel myths so that people aren't confused by the mixed messages and trying diets that don't necessarily serve them in the long term.
Really, really fascinating. I think our companies are showing that they're taking more responsibility for the well-being of their staff bit by bit, because, as you say, it's a community that you spend more of your time with, and lots of people, they don't have the work-life balance, and actually they spend a huge amount of time in work, and I don't think it's really been acknowledged by companies until most recently how much time of an effort people truly give of their lives to ensuring that a company keeps going, particularly through these difficult times. So I think it's been really, really interesting today to talk to you, Lawrence, about the holistic approach you're taking with this, and the fact that you weren't even connected. You're not part of HR. You're not part of OHS, which is Occupational Health Service. You're actually a marketing director who had a health interest, and you've had a massive impact on the business that you work in, and I can't imagine that you're not going to continue to do that because of your marketing expertise. So I just want to say thank you. It's been really, really interesting to talk to you today, and I hope it's inspired other people to go away and see that they can empower, they do have empowerment within their own business to change things.
Yes, no, I completely agree. I think that wherever you are in the organisation, if you're an employee, you can start by getting together with other people, and you start in a small way, and that starts to create ripples. That's certainly my experience. And if you're a leader in the business, then you don't have to be proactive in this area, but you do definitely need to provide that visible support, which will make a huge difference.
Thank you for coming on Food for Thought Natural Health Radio, Lawrence. It's been my pleasure.
My pleasure. Great to talk to you.